Welcome to the second Tracksumo review, and this time it's another Rab product, and one that I mentioned briefly on the previous review, which was, if you haven't seen it, of the Rab Skyline running cap. This is another item from what Rab describes as the Skyline range, although this one's not called Skyline. This is the Rab Phantom pull-on running raincoat. You can see it here. I've got it packaged up in the little bag it comes with, and from this you can see how compressible it is, and obviously it's designed to be something that you can just shove in a pack, even in a hydration vest. It fits nicely in the back of my hydration vest, and take with you, even if it's not raining when you go out. When you're out on those long runs or changing terrain or up in the mountains or something like that, or frankly even just along the coast in Brighton at the moment when you never know if it's going to rain in the next hour or so, then this is the ideal thing to have with you, so you can pull it out, keep dry and carry on running. And this is a really great bit of kit. I know my previous review of the cap was a little bit less than enthusiastic perhaps, but I can be pretty enthusiastic about this one. This does exactly what I wanted it to do. It does exactly what it claims. It's probably one of my favourite items from Rab, and that's saying something because I like almost everything I buy from them. So just to give you a quick overview of what the jacket is, as I say, it's a raincoat. It's designed to be super lightweight and extremely compressible, and it is both of those things. It weighs just 90 grams. You saw from the beginning of the video how compressible it is. You can squash it right up. It can go into its own little bag. It can go into a pocket. It can go into the back of a hydration vest or something like that. And it weighs almost nothing, so you'll barely notice it carrying it with you. Obviously, there are some trade-offs that go along with that weight, and probably the biggest one is the material. It's very, very fine material. It feels almost like one of those paper suits that you might have used for decorating or something. It's obviously it's not paper. It's not nearly that delicate, but it feels along those lines. Certainly considerably lighter than, for example, a 3 or even 2.5 layer Gore-Tex jacket or something like that. That said, and we'll talk a bit more about the waterproof qualities of it, it's still extremely waterproof, but we'll cover more of that later. The next big kind of compromise that's made to keep the weight down is that it's just a sort of quarter-length zip, just down to the chest. So it's a pull-on jacket. You need to pull it over your head and then zip it up, and that obviously reduces the weight of a zip. I quite like the styling of it. Certainly something that's easy to throw on quickly. The one disadvantage probably is that it's harder to just pull over your shoulders while you're running, particularly if you've got something like a hydration vest on. Then you'd need to make a decision. Are you going to get one that's a little bit bigger and pull it over the hydration vest, or take the time to take that off, put this on, and then put the vest back on over the top? But that's really a minor detail. In terms of other features, starting from the top then, it does have a hood, quite a simple hood, has a very fine little wire in the front just to keep the front straight, but not much in the way, well, in fact really nothing in the way of side adjusters. There's no elastic or anything, or toggles like on a lot of the jackets. What there is just a little bit of elastic that helps to keep it tight around your face. Personally, I found that if you wear it without a cap, it's not the best fit. I found that the peak tends to come down over my eyes. You could probably play around with it a little bit and try and keep it back. If you do wear it with a cap, then it's perfect. Obviously, you have the benefit of the peak of the cap, just making sure that this doesn't drop down and obstruct your vision. But that said, for the weight and for the simplicity of it, it's always going to be difficult because you don't have the adjusters at the side or the back that you'd have on a heavier, more fully featured jacket. One thing it does have, which I'm a massive fan of, is they haven't skimped on including a strap so that you can roll the hood up. I really like this because I've got a couple of other lightweight jackets that don't include something like this, and what you find, or certainly I find, the hood tends to kind of flap around. It'll end up coming over one shoulder while you're running, or flap around and come over the other shoulder. I'm endlessly sort of pushing it back and trying to rearrange it. It's just really nice to have a strap that keeps that out of the way, so you can roll it up like that. No pockets at all, which is not surprising given the desire to keep weight down, and frankly that's fine. I tend not to use pockets in raincoats anyway, and it's not the kind of thing where you'd want pockets. Again, at the bottom, no adjusters or toggles or elastic or anything elastic that you can adjust. There's just these little stretchy bits at either side, just enough to keep it nicely wrapped around your waist and stop it from moving around too much, and it does fit really nicely there. If you get one that's the right size for you, you'll find that it fits quite nice and close, and because of the slightly stretchy material, it's always going to be comfortable and move around, and even when you're running in it, it stays comfortable and doesn't kind of obstruct your movement. that's really it by way of features. There's just not a lot to it, and that's a good thing. That's what's intended from the jacket. To talk then a little bit about sort of performance and how I find it. Numbers wise, I asked Rab what the hydrostatic head value of it is. They say it's 20,000 millimeters. If you're not familiar with what hydrostatic head means, it's something you can look up, but very briefly, it's if you were to put a column of water above a bit of the jacket, going up like that, and fill that column with water, what height would the column have to be before water would start going through the material? And the answer is 20,000 millimeters, which is 20 meters. And obviously that's a lot of water. That's quite hard to visualize. What does that really mean in practice? Because you're never going to be under 20 meters of consistent water pressure. What it's really about is how well is that going to hold up to extremely heavy rain that's being blown with force by wind, rain that is being forced into the jacket by the pressure perhaps of straps or movement or areas rubbing. And that's where the ability to kind of resist additional water pressure really comes into play over a jacket with a lower hydrostatic head value, both of which might perform equally well if you simply went for a walk in a gentle shower. But then it's a question of when the wind picks up, or when the rain gets really heavy, or when it's resting on the jacket for a long time and being worked in by movement, what happens then? So 20,000 value is extremely good. It's very good for a running jacket. The minimum, if you go on a lot of trail running events or something like that, they'll often say in the kit list that you're required to have a raincoat with a minimum value, a hydrostatic head value of 10,000 millimeters. So this is double that, which gives you a fair sense that it's going to stand up well in most conditions. It's not something you would take on kind of alpine mountaineering. It's not going to stand up really well in extremely heavy rain, very high wind, with a heavy backpack or rucksack on, being kind of where the water's going to be worked in around the shoulders over long periods. That's not what it's designed for, and that's fine, and that's not the intention. But I've worn it on a lot of runs in the really heavy torrential rain that we've been having recently, and it's consistently kept me dry for 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes running in heavy rain, and that's really all you can ask for. Obviously, the trade-off you always get with good waterproof performance is breathability, and it's really important with a jacket like this that it's something you're going to be actually wearing to run in and not just carry with you while running and then put on when you stop. Is how breathable is it? That can also be measured. I have less of a sense of what those measurements mean, and I tend not to use them particularly. For me, it's really just a kind of subjective assessment of what does it feel like to run in, and all I'll say is that I've worn it on some of the extremely hot but rainy days that we've had recently, which is kind of the nightmare scenario for running in something like this, because you're going to overheat, you're going to sweat, you're then going to get clammy inside the jacket, but you're still trying to keep dry from the torrential rain. So the question is, how does it perform under those conditions? And it works really, really well, albeit it's been very, very hot and sweaty. But wearing this jacket has not made me unreasonably more hot and sweaty than I would have been anyway. Of course, if you're sweating inside the jacket, there's going to be a little bit of build-up of moisture, but it does well at moisture management and still being able to transfer some of that to the outside. It didn't make me feel immediately sort of overheating as when I wear one of my heavier raincoats, even some that have a lower hydrostatic head value than this, to the point where actually at the moment, and again I'm recording this in late July, when we've just had a week of kind of rainstorms, this is what I've been wearing just to walk the dog in the morning, because it's so light, it's so breathable, it's so much more comfortable to wear when it's like 30, 32 degrees but rainy, or I think it's likely to rain. So actually this is something that I've been using for more than just running, and I'd be tempted to recommend it as just a really good option for a summer raincoat to shove in your bag if you're commuting and you don't know if it's going to be raining at the end of the day or something like that. It's brilliant for that just because of how light and packable it is. What it's not designed for is it doesn't have the strength in the shoulders, and particularly because of the relative fragility of the material, to wear all day with a really heavy rucksack. So although in many respects it would be great for hiking, and it's just the kind of thing that would be brilliant to take on a hiking trip, it's not going to necessarily stand up to use with a heavy backpack, and it's not designed for that. It's absolutely fine with a hydration vest or a lightweight day sack, but nothing much more than that. aside from that, there's not too much to say about it really. It does exactly what I was after, which was I wanted something so that as I'm now training for a marathon and I'm going on longer and longer runs and I can't afford to miss runs, I can't really have the excuse of saying it's raining, I'll wait until it gets dry, or I'll just skip today's run and run tomorrow. Also, if you're going out on a 2.5 hour run, there's always the chance that by the end of it it's going to be pouring with rain. So having something like this that I can either take out on a run when I'm going out in the rain, something like this that I can take out on a run when I'm going out in the rain, or that I can shove into my hydration vest or my backpack, and know that if it does start pouring halfway through, I've got something I can put on. It's an absolute lifesaver. That's what I wanted it for, and that's exactly what it does, and you can't really ask for more than that. A jacket that provides exactly what's required, and it's brilliant. I would wear it a lot more. In fact, I really like the styling of it. I quite like this pull-on look, and it's something that I would buy an additional jacket in this style, particularly if there was something a bit heavier for use out hiking, or that I'd feel a bit more comfortable day to day where this is potentially going to get torn. One other thing to mention just on the zip is that one area where they've saved weight is almost all zips on raincoats, and certainly on Rab raincoats, are on modern ones are themselves waterproofed, so they're rubberized, and as you zip them up, basically 2 layers of rubber are pressing together, and that itself keeps the zip waterproof. That adds a weight, and that's one area they've saved weight. So the waterproofing on the zip here is done really the old-fashioned way, the simpler way, which is just to have an additional layer of waterproof material behind it. So obviously as you zip it up, you get that layer of waterproof. As a way of waterproofing a zip, it's not as perfect as the rubberized method, because of course if this folds over, you've got a zip there which water can get through, and if water does start to get in, you've got a little gap here where you could get dribbles of water. It's something to bear in mind. It's not been a concern or an issue for me. It's just an area where they've saved weight, and that's completely understandable. So there we are, the Rab Phantom pull-on jacket. It's absolutely one of my favourite purchases from Rab. It's really great when you buy something for a particular purpose and it does that job, and I can't recommend this one highly enough. If you have liked the video, we'd love it if you would like it, and of course subscribe. That way you'll continue to see our videos coming through in your feed when you're on YouTube, and it helps us to build our audience. If you don't already visit the blog, or you're not already a regular reader, be sure to check out treksumo.com. I'll put the link in the video description, and I'll link to the written review of this jacket where I go into a few more details and I compare it to some of the competition and put out a few of the statistics in a bit more detail, so you can look at the different weights, the different hydrostatic head, and the different breathability values of this compared to similar jackets from other brands. And much as I love this and I'd recommend it, it's always a good idea to look at what else is out there and decide what's right for you based on exactly what you're looking for, what your budget is, and what you're going to be using it for. But thanks again for watching, and look out for more review videos coming up soon.